they'll kick us off the property, which becomes extremely dangerous because now you're on this windy country road and trucks are not seeing you as they're flying by. So they're just... Hi loves, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, here's what happened. Let me start from the beginning. My friend Jess asked me to help her with a video on prison corruption. She asked, I think, like 6 or 7 different people, YouTubers who talk about prison stuff, if they wanted to share some of their stories on corruption. So I said, of course I would love it. I would love to help. And I said, what do you need? Like 3 or 4 minutes? And she said, well, yeah. She's like, you know, but I don't want to cut you off. Whatever you feel fit. And I sent her a 17 or 18, maybe a 20-minute video. And of course, she can't use 20 minutes from each person, so she just snipped out the parts that she wanted to use in her video. And what I did today was I took the rest of that content and I'm going to post it here. So this is corruption that I've seen and I've heard about throughout the years I've been coaching prison wives and family members. Some of the content in there was for somebody else's channel, so you'll see I'm talking about for Jess's channel, etc. I'll see what I can edit out from there, but that's why I'm talking like that in that video. But the information is so valuable, I don't want you guys to miss it. And also, if it's a repeat, because a lot of people came over here from Jess's channel, it's just that little snippet at the end, maybe the last like 3 or 4 minutes, that is a repeat from what's over on Jess's channel. So you guys enjoy. I just wanted to do this intro. Sorry, it's like 9 o'clock at night. I've been working on videos. It was a work day today, and so I'm a disaster, but this is real life. I love you guys. Enjoy the video. Hi everybody, it's Ro. First, I want to thank Jess for allowing me to hack into her video and tell you about my personal experience with prison corruption. I've never done time myself. My husband Adam is serving 213 years in federal prison. So he's been down for 20 and has experienced tons of corruption. Both of us have, as part of the inside and also part of the outside halves of the relationship. My experience personally with prison corruption started all the way back at trial. Adam was offered a plea deal where he could turn on and snitch about a couple of drug dealers that he didn't even know, he had never met, but the feds were trying to put them away for a long time. And they told him, listen, if you take the deal, we'll let you off and you could just go along your merry way or just do a little bit of time and be done with it. And he said no. He's like, I don't even know those people. Why would I talk about them? That's not me. It's not my personality. So they were like, okay, buddy, you're going to play that game. We're going to play our game back to you. At his trial, they did the same thing to him. They had a guy who was facing a little bit of time. I think it was drug possession, nothing major. And they offered him a deal to talk about Adam. They said, just say that you were at this place at this time. You saw him doing this and we'll let you off. At trial, they had that guy up on the stand. They cleaned him up. They got him up there. They made him look presentable. And they asked him to identify Adam. So he looks around the courtroom, he waits a second and he looks and he points. And when he pointed, he said, there he is. And he pointed at Adam's co-defendant, who was across all the way at the other end from where Adam was. Now, Adam is 6'4". His co-defendant was probably 5'6", 5'7". The only thing that they had in common was dark hair, although his co-defendant was in the military, so he had a high and tight haircut. Adam's hair was a little grown out at that point, and his co-defendant's attorney jumped up, and they were kind of frenemies. Adam and this attorney at the time, they all hung out in the same circle. The attorney was only a couple years older than him, so he went to go throw him a little bit of bail, and he jumped up in that time and he said, my client was not there at that time. That is not my client that you're referring to. And so it went back to the judge, and the judge said, it's gonna stick. Mr. Clausen, Adam, my husband, changed his appearance so much since arrest that he wasn't identifiable. The only thing that was different about Adam was that when he was arrested, before he went to jail, he wore contacts. And then while inside at trial, he was wearing wire frame glasses. That was it. That was the only thing that was different. Their height, their stature. Adam is tall and lean. This guy was short and stocky. There was no, there was no comparison. There was no comparison. It was just the government being bullies. It was just corruption. That was our very first experience with it. Adam has experienced a ton of corruption on the inside. The one thing that he tells me all the time, however, is he can't stand when COs inside tell the guys in there, him included, we need you to take care of this. Somebody comes onto the yard that the COs don't want to deal with, that they want off of that yard. So they say, you know, he has these kind of charges. They leak stuff about that inmate and they say, you guys run this place. We're going to need you to take care of him. That's expected of them. But then those same cops can turn around and hold that over their heads if and when they do. They can hold it over their heads if they don't. So they're asking these guys to do their job. They're leaking information that is so not their job, that is so corrupt, and they're waiting for people who want it to run smooth in there, or for young kids who are coming in trying to make a name for themselves to do this, and then once they do it, they're going to ship them off and they're going to charge them. It is so unbalanced. It is so corrupt, and there's so much bullying going on inside. So from my experience, that's what I want to talk about, the outside half and how we experience corruption, which is nothing in comparison to what the inmates experience and what they go through physically and how they are harmed and their lives are put at risk every single day. I would experience that all day long if it meant not dealing with and the kids and everything that goes on inside. But from my perspective, and I've been told this by my husband who lives it every day, it's one thing for them to get messed with on the inside. They know how to do time. A lot of guys and even women say, I can do time standing on my head. I put myself here. But don't mess with my innocent family members. They know what we go through to get there. They know that it takes a lot of money. I personally have to take days off of work so I could drive 6 hours to get there the day before so I could see him early the next morning. They know financially, emotionally, physically, the toll that it takes on us to get there. So these crooked cops, the corruption of the COs, when they mess with us, they're, yes, messing with us because they don't want to deal with it. They want these people to not get visits. They want to be lazy. They don't want to do their jobs. But more than that, they want us to go back and tell our loved ones, the inmates, what's going on, to rile them up so then they could start a fight. They could throw them in the hole. They can pepper spray them. They can beat them, whatever it is, because they're so protective of us because, like I said, they know what we go through. So I've seen everything from failed drug screens over and over and over again. I have one woman whose husband was very high up in a religious organization. No corruption there. It was just his beliefs, the way he was raised. They didn't like it. The prison itself was in a very backwoods area, so they didn't like the fact that not only he had these affiliations, but also that she was white, he was black. It was an interracial relationship, so they took it upon themselves to fail her on the drug screen every single time. She had to come up with this whole entire system to not touch money, to not touch gas pumps, to leave 2 hours early so that she could wipe her body down with alcohol wipes before going into prison, and half the time she still failed. I had another friend who was white, her husband was black. They were down in Florida. He was incarcerated right in the Panhandle, right outside of Alabama. So there was a lot of racism going on with the cops there. She would get comments made to her. She would get kicked out of visit all the time because the cops didn't agree with their relationships. I had a very good friend who was gay. He had a husband in a Kentucky facility, and he actually got, on the way out of visit one time, his husband got beaten when he got back for being gay. And when they finally got him out of that facility and got him moved, they didn't tell people they were in a relationship. They acted like they were cousins, so they didn't have to deal with the corruption. Now, I've seen when I go to visit personally, they change the time. They won't let us on the property before a certain time, which is, that's fine. We can move our cars. But then they're only allowing you in order that you came, and they take their sweet time to process you in. So they'll kick us off the property and people will line up outside of the facility in the order that they came, which becomes extremely dangerous because now you're on this windy country road and trucks are not seeing you as they're flying by. So they're just creating these dangerous situations for us. The worst thing I personally saw in Visit was I had a girlfriend, very dear friend of mine. We stayed in the hotel room together. My husband was friends with hers. She went to visit and he had an altercation, or he had words with a cop, and he was getting ready to leave to go to the drug treatment program, which bought him a year off of his sentence. So they were not happy with him. They didn't want him to leave. They were upset about whatever altercation went on a little bit prior. They were mad he was getting time back. They were trying to ruin it for them. So the way that they had the chairs set up in this visiting room at the time was we were all facing each other. So it was a line of chairs facing one way where the inmates sat, and then a line of chairs facing those chairs where the visitors sat, and a little table off to the left of you. So you could interact with each other. It was July. The air conditioner was broken in the visit room that day. It was hot in there. All of a sudden, we see him get ripped out of his chair and brought to the back, dragged out of there by the cops into the back room where we couldn't see anymore. So all of us, of course, look and we're like, what's going on? We see her getting spoken to very harshly by one of the officers, and she's pulled to the front of the room. They come back and they rip that chair. They slide that plastic chair across the floor, and they're pointing and showing her. So she left Visit, they got kicked out, we had no idea what happened. When I got back to the hotel room later on after my visit, because we all went in separate cars, unfortunately you're trained to do that now because you never know what's gonna happen, you never know who's gonna be let in, who's gonna be kicked out, if there's overcrowding. So we went in separate cars, she went back to the hotel room, I came back later and she said, "You will never believe what they told me." And I said, "What?" She said, "They said that I was fondling him with my foot because she was sitting and she crossed her legs. When she crossed her legs, they were waiting, they were watching them. They used that as an opportunity to kick them out and said that she was fondling him with her foot." For what? Why? What? Anyway, when they slid that chair across the floor, because she's like, "What are you talking about?" They said, "Look, there's a wet spot on the chair where he was sitting." It was July, it was 90 degrees out, and he was a larger man. He was sweating, as was everybody else in there. Everyone's chair had condensation on it, had sweat on it, because it was hot. They wound up losing their visits for a year. I believe he still made it to the drug treatment program, but she said that the cops were talking all kinds of smack to her on the way out, calling her bad names. Why? Because they wanted him to get in a fight. They wanted him to defend his woman, and then he would lose his RDAP, the drug treatment program, and he wouldn't get that year back. For what? What difference does it make in their lives? She called the facility that Monday and nobody would let her speak to the warden. The warden wouldn't get on the phone with her. The best that they said they could offer was to let her get on email. She emailed the warden and she said, "I would never do that. Please refer to the video footage." The warden came back and she said, "The video is inconclusive," and I side with my cops. The video will always be inconclusive when it is to side with the officers. When it is to side with the staff, they can't see the video footage. However, when it's to put you in the hole, transfer you out of there, or anything else, when it works in their favor, oh, that video footage is as clear as day. There was also another situation that I was told about where this inmate was playing two women at the same time. He had a wife and a girlfriend, two girlfriends, something like that. So there was a female cop, a guard, that took it upon herself to forward all of those emails to each woman, which I know a lot of you girls are like, "That's not corruption, that's girl power, go girl." You would be right if that cop wasn't also sleeping with that inmate. So that is just corrupt. They're never, or very rarely, trying to help us out. We get calls cut off mid-conversation for no reason. They just, they don't like that conversation anymore. I've had my emails read. I've had cops come up to me in Visit asking me about intricate things that I was talking about in my emails. So on the outside, we just learn to watch what we say. You can't really speak in code because then they can get charged, especially if it's a higher profile inmate. But our pictures will go missing, and it's not genuinely to mess with us. I don't think it's genuinely to mess with them, so they have a reason to lock them up, to give them more time, to take their good time. I've had a cop that made me move my car, told me I was parked in an area where visitors couldn't park, although it was the exact same area where I parked my car every single week that I went before that. Same day, he had me change my hair. He didn't like what I was wearing. I was wearing a headband. Wore it there before. He did not like my clothes. And then he allowed somebody to go in wearing the exact same thing that I was wearing right after me and kind of looked at me like, what you gonna do? And that's the thing. What you gonna do? Do you want to see your inmate, or do you want to have a fight with the cops? And I have my husband who tells me all the time, you call the shots. You stand up for yourself and I will take care of it back here. Thankfully, he is 43 years old and he's mature enough to not use that as a reason to get riled up. When he was 23 years old and involved in all of the stuff that you get involved with when you're facing a life sentence, it was very different back then. But he's mature enough to not react like that. But how do you expect everybody in there to not? And everybody has their breaking point, and that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to break not only them, they're trying to break us up, because why should an inmate, why should a lifer have a beautiful woman by his side? Why should he not? That's my question. If he deserves it. I know this part is getting long, so I just want to end with this story that I was recently told. Not only have I been the wife to a man who's incarcerated for just about 20 years, I also have worked with family members, wives, and loved ones of incarcerated for many years. So I had a woman reach out to me on my YouTube channel recently who was part of the legal team defending an inmate who we believe allegedly was by the system. She was in the middle of a legal dispute with Lackawanna County prison system, and she was a victim of all kinds of stuff on the inside, all kinds of abuse. You can use your imagination. I can't say it on this video because use your imagination. It's heartbreaking. So she finally, after getting out, one, decided that she was going to open up a PREA case, but two, to deal with all of the abuse, the physical torture that she faced, all of that corruption, she went back to a life of drugs. It ignited her addiction so much worse. During the thick of this lawsuit, she's driving one day and she gets into this horrible accident, a fatal accident, and she dies. When they looked into it, it wound up that her brake line had been cut. So it was obviously foul play. They came in, the cops, whomever, came in with this story that her boyfriend, who was also a crack addict, didn't have a crack pipe to smoke out of the night before. So he went, they say, and cut her brake lines and used that as a crack pipe. Just think about that 1 second. Just let that sink in for 1 second. What? So now he's on trial for this. He's facing time for this. And we all know, allegedly, let's say allegedly, this was corruption. And I'm so happy and so proud of her lawyers. This woman who works with the law firm told me that her lawyers came in and said, no, we'll have somebody stand in with similar charges and we're going to fight this to the end in that woman's honor, because they're not going to win. They're not going to kill people off, which is very common, so they can keep getting away with the corruption. Because here's the thing. They want us to stay quiet. They want to silence us. They are so upset right now. Things inside are getting so heated because of these videos, because of people like you who are exposing corruption. They don't want the media involved. All they want to do is create a space where we're going after safety and security. We are keeping you safe at night, so these criminals are off of the streets. That's what they want public perception to be. But at the end of the day, I ask you, after not only my stories, but all of these stories, who are the true criminals? It's so sad. 2 hours after I sent my video footage to Jess, I got an email from Adam. He had no idea I was making that video. He knew I was working with Jess on a video, but he didn't know what the topic was about. And in that email, it was all about a situation that had taken place, and it was so corrupt. He said that he was nauseous still hours after it happened. So he said that he was just about to go into the dining hall. They were just about to eat lunch after a crazy workout class, and they were outside, and this situation happened where there was a kid. He said the kid looked about 16 years old, couldn't weigh any more than 150 pounds max. He had just gotten out of the hole, so he was really weak, really thin, and something happened and they had him cuffed, and then they threw him to the ground. He said 3
300-pound men jumped on him and they were beating him, and they waited for the captain to come over and they held him down. They jumped on him, held him down, and the captain just repeatedly kept punching him over and over and over again while the 3 grown men were crushing him and holding him down until the captain decided that he had enough. And then the squad of responding officers came over and they all jumped on him. I don't know how this kid was breathing. And he said they literally dragged him like a rag doll across the yard to medical. He said he went inside to eat lunch and was nauseous. He couldn't really eat. He said he felt so responsible. He was kicking himself. He was hating himself for not being able to do anything. He said, but there was nothing good that could come out of him doing anything, just like everybody else that just stood there paralyzed and watched. He said it was the most disturbing feeling, and he felt so much resentment towards the officers that did have the ability to go over and do something and stop this, that just stood there and allowed it to happen. He said he went to the library afterwards to work on some legal stuff, and he said the people that weren't there, that didn't witness it, could see that something was wrong with him. He was in his feelings, and everybody else that did see it and knew what had happened were all quiet and kind of in their feelings as well. Everyone was feeling really guilty, disturbed, really bad about this. And I have to add this part in. Adam is at a medium security level facility, so it's not supposed to be the big, violent, anything could pop off at any moment mentality. Well, as of the past probably 6 or 8 months, it's just gone downhill. They had a captain that came from a high security facility level, and every time he instills a new harsh rule, he says, well, that's how we did it where I came from. But where he came from was a maximum security prison. It's different there. They operate differently. So Adam said he left the law library. He went back to the unit. When they cross over the yard, there's what they call a shakedown shack, meaning there's a metal detector. They have to empty their pockets, and they literally just get shaken down. They have to pass through it to get back to the units. They had extra security in there that were holding pepper ball guns, aiming them as if a riot was about to take place at any moment. He said it was so disturbing, it was so odd and awkward, and nothing was about to take place. They're just trying to instill their force, and they're just trying to flex their power muscles. So he was kind of disturbed by it. He was still nauseous from what happened at lunch. He was still kicking himself. When he got back to the unit, there were more cops in addition to the normal unit cops that were patting everybody down as they were entering the facility. He said he could not bite his tongue. And he said to them, wow, this sure doesn't feel like an FCI anymore. FCI is medium security level. And he said they looked at him kind of shocked, but nobody said anything. And his email, the last line was, what can they say? What could they say? Because they know just as well as he does that things have just gone downhill and downhill and downhill. And I just want to add this. Adam very rarely sends me an email with those types of encounters. He's never sent me one that was so vivid in the account of what happened. That was his crying out for help. Yes, that email was sent to me, but it wasn't written for me. It was written for the eyes of the people that are monitoring it to see what's going on in there. If they're monitoring it at their central hub in Texas, it's kind of flagging things. And a lot of people on the inside won't share with their family members because they know that we won't sleep at night worrying about them. We need to raise our voices and expose this horrific corruption. So I just want to leave you guys with that. Thank you guys. I'll see you soon.